Welcome to Work Unscripted. I'm your host, Marlo Lyons. I'm here to toss aside the corporate scripts for unfiltered truths. We are tackling real work challenges with no sugarcoating, providing you with the strategies to thrive and find fulfillment in your career. It's time to turn the page. It's time to be unscripted. Welcome back to Work Unscripted, the podcast where we strip away the polish, the corporate spin, and the carefully curated LinkedIn posts, and we tell the real stories about work. Today, I'm going to be very vulnerable. I want to talk about something that most leaders and HR professionals just don't want to talk about. What it feels like to receive a performance review that's laced with judgment instead of constructive feedback. Let me set the stage. I actually had an incredible year that year. I received a 6% raise, which was unheard of at the time, and an equity grant of $250,000. Clearly, I killed it that year. But the words that came with those numbers, they landed differently. They stung. And this is exactly why leaders need to rethink how they deliver feedback, whether it's in a one-on-one or in a performance review, especially a performance review. In my review, my boss said a lot of positive feedback about the impact that I had. She praised my work in creating a change management framework and how I guided the company through one of the largest organizational shifts in the history of the company. She noted my ability to continue to drive team effectiveness and said my direct reports felt my support and dedication. On paper, that should have felt incredible. But then came the watch-outs. Phrases like overcommitting, you want to be a part of more than you can handle and be excellent at everything. Clients love it, but with our growth, this will be impossible and you will burn out. Overdriving. This continues to be an Achilles heel of yours. You will uber control a project, situation, conversation. Overreacting. The nuance here is related to the sense of urgency or franticness that is received as distracting. And the one that gutted me? You do not want the Marlo show to occur. Imagine giving your heart, your creativity, your intensity, your brilliance to an organization only to be told that the very qualities that fueled your success and made great impacts to the growth of teams and individuals were liabilities. And not just liabilities, but dressed in language that feels personal, even mocking in the cuteness of the over this and over that. I can tell you when I read it, I was over it. For someone like me who processes feedback deeply and personally, that doesn't land as constructive. It lands as shame. Why? Because here's the thing. Late in life, I was diagnosed as neurodivergent. I always knew I was highly sensitive. I mean, my favorite phrase was that I cry at The Bachelor when they get engaged. But I also learned I was ADHD and high-functioning autistic. You'd never know it by talking to me because I've been masking my entire life, but clearly not well enough. When you are a highly sensitive person, your nervous system is wired to take in more information, emotional cues, tone, nuance. When you're also ADHD, you already know you bring an intensity, creativity, and urgency to your work. You don't view one project as more of a priority than another. Everything feels urgent unless someone defines priorities. That's brain wiring, not a behavior. And when you're high-functioning autistic, you may not always communicate or process in ways that match the dominant workplace style, definitely not the way neurotypical employees do. So when feedback comes in the form of judgment instead of behavior, it doesn't just hurt, it destabilizes. It makes you shrink. Hearing overdriving didn't tell me what to do differently. It told me who I am is wrong. Hearing the Marlo show didn't guide me. It caricatured me. So let's flip this. I'm about to give you some clear guidance. Let's call them performance review tips for leaders. What should you do as a leader when you're giving an annual performance review? First, think long and hard about how to present a performance review to members of your team. First, separate behavior from identity. Instead of saying overdriving, say, in this project, your sense of urgency, which showed up in certain ways, and then describe those ways in details, sometimes created stress for the team. What could it look like if you built in pause points? That's actionable, with a very specific solution to behavior that perhaps wasn't received how it was intended, if there was an intent at all. Second, acknowledge strengths before reframing. For example, your drive is extraordinary. It's part of why you delivered results beyond expectations. One area of growth is learning when to shift from sprint mode to marathon mode. That's what to write in an employee performance review if you want someone to feel seen and not shamed. An employee receiving that will not gloss over the positive feedback and go right to the negative. They will take it in and realize that a shift needs to happen at some point. Third, be curious instead of judgmental. Instead of saying, you don't want the Marlo show to occur, ask, I've noticed you often take the lead in high stakes situations. How does that feel to you? How do you think others experience it? That's how to make a performance review feel good for your team, through curiosity, not labels or mocking someone when that clearly wasn't my intent to own the show. Finally, recognize neurodiversity. Not everyone processes work the same way. Some bring intensity, hyperfocus, urgency. Some will wait till the last minute to complete an assignment because they do their best work under pressure. Instead of pathologizing it or judging it when it doesn't match how you work, leaders can learn how to discuss performance reviews with employees in ways that honor difference. For example, in my review, my boss wrote, overcommitting. You want to be a part of more than you can handle and be excellent at everything. Clients love it, but with our growth, this will be impossible and you will burn out. I keep saying will because it was capitalized. Now, that's one interpretation. From my perspective, what was happening is this. I bring intensity and urgency to everything because my brain doesn't naturally rank priorities. Everything feels important. That's the brain wiring I have. That's how ADHD shows up for me. It doesn't mean I couldn't deliver. In fact, I did deliver. The raise and the stock grant proved that. But here's the leadership moment. Instead of labeling me as overcommitting, a better way would have been to say, I see that you want to contribute everywhere. That's a strength, and you are smart and absolutely can bring value in so many areas. Let's talk about how to prioritize so you don't burn out. Compare that to someone else on the team who waits until the last minute because they thrive under pressure. Both styles can produce great work. Neither is wrong. They're just different. And that's why leaders have to learn how to discuss performance reviews with employees in ways that honor difference instead of pathologizing it. That right there is leadership. That is emotional intelligence in practice. Now, performance review tips for employees. Let's flip it again. Sometimes, as employees, we do receive reviews that feel harsh, feel punishing, or simply trigger us. So what do? First, pause before reacting. My instinct as an HSP is to internalize immediately. But one of the best performance review tips for employees is to pause. Separate the words from your worth. Next, translate judgment into data. My boss wrote, overcommitting. You want to be a part of more than you can handle and be excellent at everything. Clients love it, but you will burn out. I reframed it. She's saying I need to prioritize better and learn to say no. If my brain wiring doesn't allow me to prioritize, then I need to use my one-on-one to ask my boss to help me with that so I can take care of myself. That's how to respond to a bad performance review without spiraling. Then, ask clarifying questions. Instead of assuming the worst, I could have asked, can you give me a specific example? What would success look like instead? That's how to discuss performance reviews with your manager in a way that ignores the judgment and turns it into learning. Finally, hold both truths. I was a top performer. My compensation proved that, yet I still had growth areas. So what to do after a bad performance review? Or one that triggers you and doesn't feel like it represents you as you see yourself? Hold the truth of your success alongside your areas for growth. Here's the truth. Most reviews aren't written for neurodiverse, highly sensitive, or unconventional employees or leaders. They're written through the lens of conformity, of what good looks like to the majority. But the future of work requires difference. It requires intensity, creativity, urgency, vision, even constructive conflict at times. If leaders can't learn how to prepare for a performance review that honors difference, they'll lose their best people. So, to my former boss, thank you for the raise, the stock grant, the recognition of my results. But also, thank you for teaching me, through this experience, of course, what not to do in delivering a performance review. To every leader, remember, it is up to you to put in the work and figure out what to say in a performance review that will resonate with each specific employee. Words matter. Don't write your performance reviews when you are frustrated, irritated, didn't sleep well, or something is going wrong, because you will inevitably have a tone, use words that sting, or tear someone down. Feedback should never feel like an attack on identity. It should be an invitation to growth. And to every employee who's ever walked out bruised, even after crushing it, know your worth. Translate judgment into data. Keep showing up as the brilliant, complex, unique human you are. Because that, I tell you, is the unscripted truth about work. The journey is yours. If you liked today's episode, tune in for part 2, where I'll read another performance review and share even more performance review tips for when feedback leaves you guessing on what to do next. And of course, leave a review if you're so inclined, and also a rating. I always appreciate it. Work Unscripted is produced and edited in partnership with the team at Palm Tree Podco and 21 Digby. The content for this week's episode was created by me, Marlo Lyons.